The last hope of the galaxy. Escape from the Omega Station. Chapter 1. The mission begins. The sound of alarms echoed through the cramped halls of the spaceship as the crew prepared for their mission. Captain Alex Ramirez stood at the helm, his hands tensely gripping the controls as he mentally ran through the steps required to complete their task. The future of humanity rested on their success. Failure could mean extinction. Alex knew the gravity of their mission. He couldn't afford any mistake. The spaceship, named Hyperion, was specially designed for this mission. The highly advanced spaceship was the fastest and most advanced vessel ever made, built to travel beyond the known universe. The team was assembled from the world's top experts in their respective fields, driven by the desire to save humanity from a catastrophic event. Alex turned his attention to the rest of the crew gathered in the main control room. They were all buckled into their seats, their expressions taut with anticipation. Alex knew that they were all thinking the same thing. There was no turning back. "Are we all ready?" Alex asked. The tone of his voice echoed throughout the room. He received an affirmative in response from the crew before he continued the countdown. Hyperion launch in 5.4, 0.3, 0.2, 0.1. The ship's engines roared to life, surging with energy as they blasted into space, sending gravitational ripples across the galaxy. Alex monitored the ship's systems vigilantly, ensuring their safety and success. The crew's journey has just begun, and it was going to be a long and dangerous one. Hours passed, and the ship traveled through space at breakneck speed, pushing the boundaries of what was possible. The crew prepared the ship's many instruments as they scanned the endless expanse of space for any signs of the catastrophic event that threatened their home planet. Soon enough, the ship's algo system alerted them that they have reached their destination. A planet came into view, glowing ominously in the darkness. The planet's atmosphere was made up of gaseous clouds that obscured its surface, giving it a mysterious glow. As they descended through the atmosphere, Alex's trained eyes quickly scanned the surface, hoping for a sign, anything that could help them understand the planet's behavior. It was then the data came in, and their world turned upside down. The planet is a Dyson sphere. Alex's voice was filled with incredulity as he spoke to the crew. A megastructure of unimaginable scale and complexity. The Dyson sphere that dwarfed the small ship was an engineering marvel, built to encircle and harness the power of a star. The scaled design of the structure left Alex and his crew in awe, conjuring up images of a civilization far beyond their time. As they worked to analyze the planet's energy levels and composition, the team unveiled a terrifying secret. A massive black hole was lurking inside the center of the sphere, consuming everything in its path. Alex and his crew realized that they were already in the black hole's gravitational pull, and if they did not act quickly, the ship would soon become its victim. They had to find a way to escape before it was too late. In a frantic race against time, the crew worked together to make the necessary calculations, always aware of the danger that surrounded them. With final preparations completed, Alex and his team prepared to execute their plan. The fate of humanity rested on their shoulders. The Hyperion banked hard to the right and unleashed all of its engine's power, desperately trying to break the grasp of the black hole. The engines strained against the massive gravitational pull, and for a moment, it seemed as though they had failed. In the end, their knowledge and expertise proved to be enough, and the Hyperion broke free. As the crew breathed a collective sigh of relief, Alex wondered what other secrets and dangers lurked among the stars. They must be prepared for anything. For the mission had only just begun. Chapter 2. Arrival at the Omega Station. The Hyperion continued on its mission, traveling through the vast expanse of the universe. The team encountered new planets and galaxies, each one more fascinating than the last. But their quest was to find clues to the catastrophic event that loomed over their home planet. Several weeks had passed, and the crew's efforts had been rewarded. They had just received critical information regarding the location of a long-abandoned research station known as the Omega Station. The station had been established for scientific study around a black hole, and while the facility had been long abandoned, it might still hold key information regarding the origins of the event threatening humanity. The station was located in a far-off system, and the journey would take several months, even in the Hyperion's high-tech propulsion system. The crew knew that their journey would be dangerous and challenging, but they remained resolute in completing their mission. As the ship emerged from stasis, Alex brought the crew up to speed on the situation. "We're rapidly approaching the Omega Station, but we must ensure that we'll be allowed access. After all, without proper clearance or identification, they would never be allowed to dock with the station." The Hyperion glided into the Omega system, its high-tech scanners scanning the station's security barriers. As they approached the station, they transmitted clearance codes and identification protocols. There was a moment of tense silence as they waited for a response. Finally, a voice came over the comms. "This is Omega Station Control. State your purpose for docking." Alex took a deep breath and spoke firmly. "This is Captain Alex Ramirez of the Hyperion. We're on a mission, and we seek permission to dock in order to conduct research." There was a long pause before the voice replied. "Permission granted, Captain. Welcome to the Omega Station. Prepare for docking procedures." With relief, the crew prepared to dock with the station, knowing that they were one step closer to discovering the truth. Once they docked, they stepped out of the ship, and their eyes widened as they beheld the station's stark interior, one filled with debris and destruction. The once bustling station now lay abandoned and broken, signs of struggle present everywhere. The crew stepped cautiously, as they made their way deeper into the structure, searching for any information that could help them solve the puzzle back home. As they searched, they discovered trails of blood and scorch marks on the walls, signs of battle or attack. The crew pushed forward, determined to find answers. Finally, after what seemed like hours, they found the station's control room. It was there that they discovered something that would change their perceptions of the situation entirely. The Omega Station was not abandoned. The station had been ravaged by an onslaught of creatures that they would later find out were known as the Velethir, ancient beings rumored to have the ability to shift reality with their thoughts. The severity of the situation became clear. The Velethir's attack was just a prelude to a more grave danger looming beyond. Alex and his team knew that the fate of humanity rested on their shoulders. They had to find clues, and they must hurry. However, as they continued to explore deeper, they came across a twist that shocked them to their core. A group of survivors from the Velethir's attack were alive, and they didn't seem eager to allow the Hyperion crew to leave the station alive. The crew was in danger, and they knew that they were running out of time. Their mission had become doubly dangerous, and it was far from over. Chapter 3. The survivor Alex felt the sweat trickle down his face as he hid, his back pressed against the cold, metallic wall of the darkened room. He kept his eyes on the door, listening intently for any signs of danger. The Velathir's attack had taken the Omega Station's crew by surprise, and many had been killed. Those who had somehow survived knew that the Velathir were a species of beings with unfathomable power, which they had used to wreak destruction. Alex and his team had discovered a group of survivors, huddled together in fear. They had hoped that the crew would bring supplies that could help them survive. But the group, led by a surly man named Richard, was hostile to the newcomers. "You can't just barge in here and expect us to roll out the red carpet." Richard's voice was brusque, and his eyes glinted with anger. "We have been here fighting for our survival, and you just swoop in, acting like we owe you something." Alex knew that Richard was right. They may have come to the station to search for clues and answers, but they had also made enemies. Nevertheless, they had no choice but to try to make amends and work together to survive the new threat lurking on the horizon. As they prepared for the next phase of their mission, the survivors seemed to warm up to the crew. They showed them how to navigate through the station, introducing them to the few amenities available, and what traps to watch out for. In return, the crew shared valuable insights and expertise. Among the survivors, there was a woman named Jules. Alex immediately noticed her as she quietly sat alone, her face drawn and her eyes red from countless tears. Alex found himself drawn to her and the vulnerability she radiated. Jules was a scientist who had been working on researching the Velathir's unique abilities. Alex could see that she was holding on to some vital information that could help not only the crew on their mission but also potentially save humanity from extinction. Days passed, and the group's preparation continued. In that time, Alex and Jules found themselves drawn to each other, bonding over their shared passion for science and the mission. They found moments of respite in each other's company, knowing that the dangers that awaited them would require all their skills and expertise. Finally, the group was ready to face the next stage of their mission. It was a dangerous one, traveling through uncharted territories that would test their skills and wits like never before. But the crew and the survivors stood ready, determined to succeed. As they prepared to leave the station, a sudden explosion rocked the structure, and chaos erupted. The survivors scrambled to stay alive, but Alex knew that they had no chance. The Velathir had returned, and they were coming in force. The crew and the survivors fought valiantly against the Velathir's onslaught, but it was a losing battle. In the midst of the battle, Alex saw Jules held captive by the Velathir. Alex couldn't bear the thought of losing her. He knew he had to act. He had to save her. Fighting his way through a sea of Velathir warriors, Alex reached Jules and freed her. He knew their chances of surviving had become even slimmer. They both had injuries, and they were exhausted, but they couldn't give up. Humanity's future relied on them. The team and the survivors, battered and bloodied, continued their mission, now with the newfound knowledge, and the stakes couldn't have been higher. They had to succeed. They had to survive. Chapter 4. The secret of the Omega Station. The Hyperion, battered and bruised, flew through the void of space, the crew struggling to maintain the wounded ship. Jules and Alex sat in the control room, working to keep the ship running as they plotted their next move. The stakes were higher than ever. They had to find the clues that would lead them to the source of the devastating event. Jules reached out, her hand slipping into Alex's, and squeezed it tightly. Alex knew what she was trying to say, and he squeezed her hand back, acknowledging his agreement to her unspoken words. They had to finish what they had begun. Through the static of the ship's communication system, a transmission came through. It was a weak signal, but it was enough to get the crew's attention. It was a message from the Omega Station, and it held a secret that could change everything. Jules input the coordinates, and within minutes, they were back at the Omega Station. The survivors were gone, their fate unknown, but the information they had revealed had brought them back. The station's control room was still intact, and with it, they found the answers they were seeking. The Omega Station wasn't just a research facility. It was a portal, a doorway into another dimension. The Velither had been guarding it, determined to prevent anyone from entering, and now the question remained, should they enter? Alex knew the risks, but the decision had to be made. They could not return to Earth empty-handed, and there were few other options left on the table. So, Alex and the crew readied themselves, knowing that the mission had now shifted from one of investigation to one of survival. The crew and Jules stepped through the portal and into an entirely different universe, a place where nothing seemed to make sense. They landed on a desolate planet, full of strange creatures and bizarre anomalies. But this planet was also littered with ruins that seemed to belong to ancient civilizations. The crew knew then that the key to humanity's survival lay somewhere there, in that strange world. As they journeyed on, they encountered beings that defied description. They were pulled into chasms and swallowed by strange fogs as they searched for the source of the event. After several days of travel, they found themselves standing before a towering monolith, adorned with intricate carvings and glyphs. Alex and Jules examined the monolith closely, and it was there that they discovered something that shook them to their core. This universe had been created by a highly advanced alien race, failed experiments that were left abandoned. The Velither were the results of their failed experiment, and they had become unpredictable and dangerous. The crew discovered that their mission was much more critical than they had ever realized. Humanity was on the brink of annihilation. The crew knew then that they had to act fast, and they had to escape before the Velithir's destruction consumed them. They returned through the portal, knowing that they had uncovered a secret that had the potential to change everything. As they emerged back into their own universe, Alex and Jules exchanged a look, a silent understanding of the gravity of their discovery. They knew that humanity's fate rested on their shoulders, and nothing less than everything they have would suffice. Their mission was incomplete, and the danger had reached unimaginable heights. But they had uncovered what could be humankind's savior, and they would fight with all they had to save their home planet. Chapter 5. Betrayal. The Hyperion glided through the vastness of space, hurtling toward Earth. The crew was exhausted, but their mission had not been a failure. They had discovered the portal, and with it, the key to the origin of the catastrophic event. They had hoped, with all their hearts and souls, that they could make a change, save humanity from extinction. Jules, who had grown enmeshed in the mission, and in Alex, had grown quieter than usual, lost in her thoughts. Alex knew the danger that lay ahead and kept a keen eye on Jules, sensing that something was amiss. The crew went about their duties, ensuring that the damaged ship was stable, and preparing to bring the portal back to Earth. But as they made their way back, something went wrong, and everything changed. The portal flickered, and the ship rocked in protest. Warning signals sounded, and alarms blared as the ship shook with increasing magnitude. Suddenly, a part of the ship exploded, and the crew was thrown to the ground. As they stumbled to their feet, they saw the unthinkable. Jules had taken control of the ship and had eliminated the rest of the crew. Alex's heart sank at the sight of Jules, now pointing a weapon at him. "I'm sorry, Alex." Jules' voice shook as she spoke. "I have to do this." Alex couldn't believe it. Jules had been his ally, the one he had hoped he could rely on in the crisis. But at that moment, everything he had believed in vanished, and he knew that he was fighting for his life. A fight broke out in the control room, the two combatants hurling everything they could find at each other. Alex, fueled by a sense of betrayal, fought with every fiber of his being, hoping and praying that he could still complete their mission. The ship rocked and groaned as the struggle continued, finally ending when Alex saw an opening during the fight and used it to disarm Jules. He managed to restrain her, his fear mixed with a deep sense of loss. "Why, Jules?" Alex's voice was full of desperation as he spoke. "Why did you do this?" Jules' eyes widened with regret. "I had no choice. I had to do whatever it takes to save humanity, even if it meant hurting those closest to me." The ship was heavily damaged, but Alex knew that he had to at least try and complete their mission despite the betrayal. With grit and determination, he worked to stabilize the ship, hoping to get back to Earth as soon as possible. As the ship shuddered and groaned, Alex stared out through the shattered viewport, staring out into the vast emptiness of space. He knew that the dangers had not abated, that the fight for humanity's safety had only just begun. The crew had started this mission full of hope and purpose, but they had been tested in ways they never thought possible. Still, they pressed on, determined to find answers and save humanity, no matter the cost. Chapter 6. The final showdown. The Hyperion finally made it back to Earth, battered and beaten but with the portal intact. Alex knew that they were now in a race against time, trying to find a way to stop the Velither and prevent further destruction. Alex reached out to the few remaining scientists, who had managed to hide from the Velither, joining forces to decode the secrets of the portal. They discovered that activating the portal would release a wave of energy that could destroy the Velither once and for all. As they worked, Alex couldn't shake off the feeling of dread that clung to him. He knew that they were running out of time, that the Velither were closing in fast, and that they had to succeed on this final mission. The crew hurried to power up the portal, knowing that the Velither would soon arrive to claim their prize. But in the midst of their plans, a figure appeared, stunning them all. It was Jules, who had escaped from her restraints. "I can help you," Jules spoke up as she approached Alex. "I know how the portal works, and I can activate it for you." Alex could barely contain his anger. He had no idea if he could trust Jules again, not after what she had done. But he knew they had no other choice. They had to work together. As Jules worked on the portal, the crew kept watch, every noise outside causing them to tense up. And then, they came. The Velither arrived in a fleet of ships, descending upon Earth. The crew and Jules fought valiantly against the Velathir's attack, the battle raging on for what felt like hours. The Velathir's strength was formidable, and the crew was slowly being overwhelmed. As Jules worked to activate the portal, Alex and the remaining crew fought on, pushing forward towards the portal, determined to end the Velathir threat. In an epic final showdown, the crew fought alongside Jules, who brought the final blast of energy necessary to activate the portal. As the energy erupted, the Velathir stood poised, ready to destroy the crew once and for all. But as the energy hit them, they faltered, their strength fading away. In an instant, they were gone, the threat ending, and the crew staring out in disbelief. The battle had been won, but it had come at a staggering cost. The crew mourned their losses, their fallen comrades, their grief laid bare. But despite their grief, Alex felt a small glimmer of hope. The planet was free, and with it, a chance to start anew. They had found the key to preventing humanity's destruction, the portal, and they could explore other universes, find new ideas, and build a new future for Earth. As the sun set on the battered ship and the ragged crew, Alex knew that the fight for humanity's future may never end. Still, he vowed to never give up, to fight for the new Earth, to embrace hope in the light of an uncertain future. Chapter 7. The aftermath. The dust had cleared, and life on Earth slowly began to return to normal. The battle had been brutal, the losses great, but humanity had prevailed. Alex and the remaining crew looked out upon the world, knowing that their sacrifice had been worth it. The survivors were scattered throughout the planet, gathering and rebuilding, creating a new society. The research teams continued their work, studying the portal to learn its secrets, hoping to prevent another catastrophe. Jules had been taken into custody, but despite the betrayal, Alex couldn't help but feel a pang of guilt and sympathy towards her. He knew that the choices they had made had been difficult and that sometimes there were no easy answers. As the months passed, Alex and Jules found themselves working together once again, much to Alex's initial discomfort. He couldn't help but remember the fire that had caused Jules' initial betrayal, and the trust that had been broken. But as they worked towards a common goal, he began to soften, knowing that rebuilding their society would take time and dedication. The research teams were making great strides in understanding the portal, and with each discovery, hope grew. They understood that with the portal, they could explore other worlds, discover the secrets of the universe, and potentially create a new home for humanity. As they worked, Alex realized that this mission had been about more than just preventing humanity's destruction. It had been about coming together, facing adversity, and discovering the power of working together towards something bigger than oneself. The aftermath of the event had created a new society, one that was resilient and strong. The crew had lost friends and comrades, but they had gained a greater sense of purpose and hope for the future. Alex took in the rebuilt city, the bustling streets, the children playing and laughing, and felt a sense of pride in what they had accomplished. The mission had been long and arduous, but in the end, they had succeeded, and humanity had a future once again. As Alex looked out at the world around him, he knew that anything was possible. There would always be challenges, obstacles, and enemies to fight, but humanity had proven its resilience and strength. As long as they continued to work together, there was nothing that they could not achieve. The fight for the future was far from over, But for now, Alex and the crew could rest, knowing that they had accomplished something incredible. And with that knowledge, they looked forward to the future, filled with hope and determination, ready to take on whatever comes their way.